It's always interesting in the few weeks leading up to the NFL season. You get anxious, you start eagerly anticipating it, then you start getting borderline frustrated when you get to those last few days before your team plays its first game because you're getting pissed off because you're ready for football and you want it to hurry up and freaking come. And the 2013 NFL season, thankfully for all of us football fans, has finally come. And what an opening weekend for this season. If this is an indication of the type of football we're going to get this year, we're in for a very good year as football fans. I'm sure you could say that most years, but this year, week one, was an incredible start to any season, but especially for this 2013 NFL season. When you look at some of the big stories that happened in week one, you have to start off with Peyton's 7-touchdown performance in the Thursday night game against the defending Super Bowl champs, the Baltimore Ravens. 7 touchdown passes. Just think about that. Not since Injun Joe Cap has somebody thrown 7 touchdown passes in an NFL game. And you could go even farther back to Sid Luckman in the 40s. It just doesn't happen very often, period. What an impressive performance. What a way for the Denver Broncos to come out and exercise some of those playoff demons from last season and really start off the season with a big statement saying that they indeed will be the team to beat in the AFC, at least in their opinion. A lot of close games, too. That was another big story for this. I thought there were a lot of close games, a lot of exciting games, a lot of compelling finishes. Usually get some of those in week one, and it definitely did not disappoint here. But I thought the quality of play to go with some of these close, exciting games was very good as well. It wasn't just that teams were necessarily playing close because they were sloppy games and they were giving them away. You had a lot of good, compelling football action. You really did. Another huge story obviously comes out of the Monday night game between the Eagles and the Redskins. And you look at the Chip Kelly effect. It's going to be interesting to see how NFL teams are going to adjust to Chip Kelly's tempo, Chip Kelly's style, Chip Kelly's scheme and offense. Because as you could tell, his offense is going to be something entirely different in the NFL. It's going to be balls to the walls, blazing guns all the time. I personally think it's going to make for an exciting brand of football to watch for the Philadelphia Eagles. Not a team that I usually associate with excitement. That's just the way it is. So those are some of the big stories. In terms of some of your big winners for week number one, obviously you have to say the Denver Broncos. You beat the defending Super Bowl champs by the comfortable margin that you ended up doing it. All the while, Peyton looks spectacular. And I could say many things about Peyton Manning, and a lot of them are true. But the one thing I cannot deny is that when he's on point and he's in rhythm, it is truly magnificent to watch. There is no question about that. And you don't need ESPN or the NFL Network or anybody else to tell you that. It's just spectacular to watch. So the Broncos obviously have to be big winners for week one because they won big against a quality opponent and have stamped their place as a legit, real-deal contender in the AFC. The Philadelphia Eagles, I think, are another big winner. To come out in week one and really, for 3 quarters, put a pretty good licking on the Washington Redskins and show that they're going to be something to deal with. Teams are going to have to really pay attention and really game plan against them. And the Eagles are going to bring something different. I think that makes them winners. Teams are going to have to adjust to them, not the Eagles adjusting to other people. Frankly, this might sound like a bit of a homer pick, but honestly, the Chicago Bears are pretty big winners in week one. Jay Cutler didn't play terrible. They beat a good opponent in the Cincinnati Bengals. And now the way the schedule sets up for the Bears, you've got the Vikings, the Steelers, and the Lions. There is definitely a very good possibility that the Bears could start off their season with a 4-0 tally or 3-1 at the very worst. That is why they were winners in week one. Not only did they beat the Bengals, but it sets this team up for yet another really fast, big start like they've had the past 2 seasons. Football fans in general really won this week too. It's great to have the NFL back, and there were a lot of exciting games. Now we're getting into the fall season. It's a glorious time for sports fans around the world. In terms of some of the losers in week number one, obviously you have to go with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I said in my preview series that I thought the Steelers are going to finish last in that division, and by God, they looked terrible against the Tennessee Titans. Not a good start to the season at home, nonetheless. Ndamukong Suh is a loser. An incredible talent, a force when he's focused, but the cheap hits and the late hits and the unnecessary shots, he needs to stop this crap. He's just supposed to be smarter than this, and he needs to play smarter than this, and he needs to be more in control. And he lost $100,000, and frankly, he should be suspended a game or 2. That's what it's getting to with Sue. I mean, this type of shit is just cheap and it's unnecessary and it needs to stop. Other players on the defensive side of the football, like Ray Malaluga and Levante David, costing their teams potential chances to win late in the games with stupid penalties. That definitely is not how you want to make your stamp on the game, especially in the case of a Levante David, who had a really good game against the New York Jets. And the Jacksonville Jaguars ultimately were losers, but they were losers for a purpose. They've officially begun their chase towards the Jadeveon Clowney, Teddy Bridgewater sweepstakes. And if they've got to lose all of them to ensure their place at the number 1 pick, then by God, it sure as hell looks like they're going to be determined to do so. They look terrible against the Kansas City Chiefs, who themselves you could almost classify as a winner because they had a very good week. Now, heading into week 2, a lot of times you'll hear all this buzz and excitement about week 1. And you know it's a new start to the season. You haven't had a real legit game in like 7 months. So everybody's looking forward to week 1. But it's week 2 that a lot of times can be viewed as the most important week of the season. If you won your first game, you've got a chance to get off to a very good start and go 2-0. If you won your first game and you lose your second game, then you're just 1-1. You're right back basically to square one. And if you lost your first game and you lose your second game, then you're starting off 0-2. It's not unprecedented for a team to start off 0-2 and win the Super Bowl. See the 93 Cowboys, see the 2007 Giants, just for a couple examples. But it doesn't happen every day. So if you're a team that wants to have serious aspirations of making the playoffs, even making the Super Bowl, possibly winning a Super Bowl, you better be 1-1 or 2-0 after week 2. The big monster game that everybody's going to talk about this week, obviously, is going to be the San Francisco 49ers at the Seattle Seahawks. One of these teams is going to start off 2-0. The 49ers look very impressive in week 1 against Green Bay, especially on the offensive side of the football. The Green Bay Packers did a good job, I think, of stopping Kaepernick and that kind of spread read option stuff. But Kaepernick beat him with his arm anyways because he is that talented of a quarterback. And the Seattle Seahawks had to grind it out and face a very game and very good, in my opinion, Carolina Panther team. They found a way to win. So now San Francisco goes to Seattle. Harbaugh and Carroll don't like each other. This is the game of the week. This is the matchup of the week. Make no mistake about it. But there are some other good matchups to look forward to in week 2 as well. You've got Tennessee traveling to Houston to take on the Texans. If Tennessee wants to make an early season statement after beating the Steelers and kind of dominating them in week 1, if they can come back and somehow find a way to win on the road at Houston and start off 2-0 in that division, that's got to be a very good way to start off the year and start to get the Titans confident in the fact that maybe they can hang around in that wild card race this year. Dallas at Kansas City. The Chiefs are going to be much improved this year. I think they're going to be a wild card team. And you've got the Cowboys, who I think are going to win that division in the NFC East. So you've got 2 potential playoff teams facing off at Arrowhead. That's another very good game. Dallas Cowboys versus the old Dallas Texans. It's a rivalry, technically, that you could say dates more than 50 years back. And then you've got 2 0-1 teams where somebody that made the playoffs last year, somebody that won their division last year, is going to start off 0-2. That's the Washington Redskins at the Green Bay Packers. RG3 versus Aaron Rodgers. I don't anticipate it being a good day for Redskin fans. I'd be very surprised at this point to see the Green Bay Packers lose to the Redskins at home and start their season 0-2. It's like I talked about in the preview video. I didn't think this was going to be as good of a year for the Redskins as most of the national media was trying to pump it up to be. I think they're going to be a 6 or 7 win team with their tougher schedule and coming back down to earth a little bit more. But if the Redskins have any delusions or any real shot, frankly, of being contenders in the NFC East, being contenders in the wild card picture, they must find a way to go to Lambeau Field and beat Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers in week number 2. I don't think they will, but that's what they have to do if they have any real aspirations at the playoffs. So we've got some good matchups heading into week 2, no question about it. It'd be curious to see how the week plays out, who the winners and losers are, but you have to agree, I would think, that it's great to have football back. And it was a very good kickoff to the 2013 NFL season.